Hey everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. Today, I want to do another recent watches on 3 movies that I happen to finish today as I am filming this. So I figured let's talk about all 3 of them while they are fresh on my mind. Included in today's reviews, we have one of my 12 most embarrassing blind spots with Spiral from the Book of Saw, a movie that I should have had on my 12 most embarrassing blind spots list, Creepshow, and the one that everyone is talking about right now because it just had a 4K upgrade, but I still have the DVD of The Abyss. So let's not waste any time at all. Let's dive right into my thoughts on 3 recent watches. Alright, so I'll go through all 3 of these in the order I watched them. I'm going to try to keep my thoughts relatively brief on these because you don't need to hear me ramble on these. They're pretty well-known movies. But first off, I ended up watching The Abyss. So I watched this for the first time back in, it had to be like 2009, 2010. I was living in an apartment at grad school, so that's how I know it was one of those 2 years. And honestly, I didn't enjoy the movie. But that was a long time ago now, so I thought, you know what? Everybody is talking about The Abyss because, of course, we had The Abyss, Aliens, and True Lies hit 4K recently, and the transfers are very divisive, to say the least. Now, I put up in a community post my thoughts on Aliens. I loved it. I thought that transfer was amazing, but I was very close to purchasing The Abyss on 4K because I started watching the DVD and I was like, man, when you compare this to Aliens, which I started watching the night prior, it's just night and day. It's like, man, can I really watch this on DVD? Should I just get the 4K? Well, after watching The Abyss, I'll say that I'm happy I didn't waste the money on the 4K. So The Abyss is about a oil rig crew who ends up getting recruited to research what's happening under the ocean after this mysterious incident with another warship. It ends up, basically, everyone on board is killed, it gets attacked. And so, is it war? What's going on here? Well, obviously with The Abyss, you probably know what you're getting into. This is a sci-fi film, so that's the direction this thing is going to go. Now, let me start with some things I like about The Abyss. One, I think the characters in this, some of them at least, are very interesting. I think Michael Biehn does a wonderful job with what he's given here. He kind of devolves or degrades into this state of paranoia, and he was amazing in this. It was interesting because I just watched Aliens a couple days before this, or the night before, whatever it was, and I really loved him in that, but here, he just takes a whole step up. Like, it's just such a different role, but he plays it incredibly well. So I thought he was really the standout in this movie for me. I didn't mention it, but Michael Biehn's character is actually the lead of the Navy SEALs. So he leads his small team of Navy SEALs as they're going to try to investigate what's going on underwater. Alongside him, though, we have Ed Harris, who plays the lead or the head of the civilian oil rig. And then he is married to the female lead, Mary Elizabeth Mastriantonio. I'm probably butchering that, but you know who she is. She's very famous. But they are separated. They have a very terrible relationship at the beginning of this movie. And frankly, it's one of the main reasons I don't really enjoy The Abyss is that relationship. If your entire movie is going to hinge its climax on the relationship that they've built between these two characters, why start it at such a low point? Because then you're required over the course of the hour and a half, 2 hours till we get to that point, to really make the viewer believe that things have changed and that this relationship is actually growing and becoming stronger in order to make this climax of the film work. And boy, oh boy, it just doesn't for me at all. And I understand completely. I'm in the minority on this film. People love this movie. Now that the 4K is out, everyone is rewatching it, and you hear how it's people's favorite films of all time. It's 5-star classic, and I am just on the complete opposite side. And I think the main reason for that is just this relationship that they throw in here. I don't enjoy it at all. On top of that, this is an alien movie, of course, and the alien creatures we get are so, just unimpressive, I guess, is the best way to describe it. The climax, again, I'm not going to give any spoilers for any of these movies, of course, but The climax is just so stereotypical. Now, again, this is from, 1989, I believe, so maybe it wasn't as stereotypical back then, but still, just the way this plays out as we get to the finish line is so absurd and just ridiculous to me, and I just didn't care by the end of it, honestly. I did watch the longer edition, the director's cut of this, which is like, I don't even know, 28 minutes of additional footage, so it is a long movie. I think it was just shy of 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And it feels long at points for me. There are moments in this that are really good. Like some of the set pieces that they have go on, especially impressive that it's underwater. It just looks really cool. And so kudos to Cameron for that. But just the story itself just doesn't work for me. I think I want my aliens to be more aggressive, I guess, because I don't like the Abyss that much, and I don't like Close Encounters of the Third Kind all that much either. And I think it might have to do with the fact that the aliens just aren't what I'm looking for out of an alien movie. So the Abyss is still a disappointment to me. I don't get the love for it, and I'm not saying you shouldn't love it. Love what you love. But for me, it's just not one of my favorites. So I am going to give the Abyss 2 out of 5 stars. And I will mention, like I said, I watched the longer edition. This is the 2-disc DVD version, so it's the special edition, which comes with what is supposed to be one of the greatest special features ever made. It's called it's called Under Pressure, Making the Abyss, and it's a 60-minute documentary about the making of the film, which is supposed to be amazing to watch. Unfortunately, when I put that on my DVD player, my 4K players where I was watching this, I couldn't navigate the menus. It wouldn't play. Like, I kept hitting buttons on my controller to make it work, and it just wouldn't. So I don't know what's going on there. That's not anything that has to do with the rating of the movie or my thoughts on the film at all. Just a disappointment I wanted to share with you guys. But yeah, so Abyss, not a favorite, but I know everyone else loves it, and kudos to you. If it's your favorite movie, I hope it always remains as such. Next up is a movie that, frankly, probably should have been on my 12 most embarrassing blind spots list from earlier this year, because this is one I should have seen years ago. I'm talking, of course, about Creepshow from 1982, directed by George A. Romero. So this is one that I've never heard any real negative things about over the years. I've heard kind of middling reviews, and people just love this one. So I didn't know where I would fall on this, but it's, of course, an anthology film. We're going to follow 5 different stories, plus a little bit of a wraparound that sets up the whole thing with this kid reading a Creepshow comic, and then that sets up all 5 of the shorts that we end up getting here because they're from the pages of the comic book. And that's something that was really interesting about this. Romero goes really hard on that comic book style. Some of the shorts are really played up real high, like the one with Stephen King, who is also the writer of this script, but they're played up really hard. And so it just gives you that kind of 50s over the top vibe, which I thought was really done really well. It was just interesting to see that. On top of that, there's just transitions in between some of the scenes where it's literally a comic book page on the screen. So I thought that was really cool too. I didn't expect that, I guess, coming into it. And let me also mention, this is the 4K from Scream Factory, and that reversible cover art is just gorgeous. I love that. So I will keep that up for the remainder of this review. Oh, it's the opening story I was talking about there. But yeah, so there are 5 different shorts in here. The first one is basically this dead father comes back from the grave. He's a zombie. Special effects work by Tom Savini is awesome in this. I really loved this opening zombie creature that comes back from the dead. I think it's called Father's Day, or that's at least the theme of it. That one was fine. I wasn't like super overly impressed with the story itself. It's just kind of short, and which all of these are short, obviously, but it felt a little bit shorter than even the rest of them. Not a whole lot goes on, but again, the special effects work looks pretty cool. That leads into the second short here, which is this meteor hitting the earth, and then Stephen King coming to see what's going on. And he plays like this bumbling idiot, essentially, and he plays it super over the top, but really, I thought it worked. Like, it's really funny. He ends up touching the meteor, and then on his hand, he turns into this creature of some sort. It starts growing moss, grass on him. It's really strange. Anything he touches then is going to end up turning into this moss, and he eventually becomes this like big creature, and then it kind of just ends. This is another one that's good because of Stephen King, I think. I think that whole aspect of how he's playing it up just works really well for this because it's just such a goofy, over-the-top story. But in terms of like story itself or plot itself, it doesn't really go anywhere, even towards the end of it. So another one that was good, but nothing great, nothing to write home about. From there, we go into one of the cooler ones in it just because of the cast. We have Ted Danson and we have Leslie Nielsen in this, and they are awesome together. But essentially, Leslie Nielsen's character is upset because Ted Danson's character is now with his ex-wife or something along those lines, ex-girlfriend, whatever it is. And so he ends up burying him in the sand as the tide's coming up. And it's this, is the guy going to escape? What's going to happen? And of course, we're dealing with Creepshow. We're dealing with supernatural horror. So you can imagine what's going to happen there with these people who are buried. But another one that is well done. I like the special effects work on this. Again, we have some, creatures coming back from the dead, essentially, with this one. And it's enjoyable to watch. Really, why you watch this one, though, for me, is for the cast. I think it was excellent. Seeing Leslie Nielsen play this, evil bad guy was super cool to me, because I've never really seen him do that. I think of him, I think of Naked Gun, or more specifically, I think of the SummerSlam, where he was trying to find the fake Undertaker, right? And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah. So that was another good one. Again, the cast was really the star of that one. And from there, we move into what I believe is the longest one in this anthology. We have a janitor who uncovers underneath the stairs at his university. He uncovers this box that's dated back in the 1840s. So he ends up calling this professor. They start trying to get this crate out. They open it up, and of course, there's going to be this creature living inside for the past 147 years, I think it is, right? When this was done. So this creature then is going to be used to help take care of one of the other professor's wives. And are they going to get it covered up? What's going to happen from there? It's just a fun show, a fun short that stars Adrienne Barbeau, and she's awesome because you hate her in this, which is what you're supposed to do. But it's really funny. Her character in juxtaposition with the other, with the professors, and just that whole university life that they're leading is so different, and it's so funny to watch. But I loved the creature effect in this. It looks so cool. I guess this was one of the first times that Savini used animatronics. And so he talked with, the name's going to escape me, but he talked with the guy who did the effects for The Thing and ended up coming up with this creature for this short, which I think is just a really cool connection. So another really good short. Is it the best short on there? I mean, probably from a technical standpoint, it's done really well. The acting is great. The story is kind of the most fully fleshed out story in this anthology. So I really enjoyed that one as well. Last but not least is this millionaire who's up in his penthouse apartment, and he is a germaphobe, and he's getting cockroaches, and he is freaking out about it. And so he is this awful human being, of course, but these cockroaches just keep seemingly coming from nowhere. It's another one that's done well with the special effects. The story, again, isn't really that great, and it isn't really anything to write home about, but it sets up enough to get these, just thousands and thousands of cockroaches into the scene, which just looks cool, and again is super impressive from a special effects standpoint. But this story was probably the one I was most disconnected with, just because, I don't know, the whole thing is shot really well. I just didn't really care all that much. I would put this one ahead of the Father's Day one at the beginning, but I don't think it ended on the highest note possible. It's just it's an interesting short, but again, just doesn't really do much. And frankly, all of this might just be because I'm not the biggest fan of anthology films. I would much rather watch just a feature-length film as opposed to short films or anthologies. So this just could be my bias showing here. But, overall, I still think it's a good package. I liked the wraparound package, the story with the kid. The boy in this was actually Joe Hill, a famous author now, and of course, Stephen King's son. But great author. I've read a couple of books from him and really enjoyed them. But as an actor, just terrible. His dad did a much better job as this ridiculous over-the-top thing. But yeah, that was kind of a fun little Easter egg I found out after the fact. So yeah, good movie. I understand why people love this one. I'm going to give Creepshow 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think it is a good film, but not anything that is a new personal favorite. Still something that I should have watched many years ago. So yeah, I'd have to check out the sequels. I have 2 and 3 on DVD, and then I have a whole bunch of the seasons as well. I don't know, maybe the first 3 seasons on Blu-ray, so definitely need to check those out. But Creepshow's good. It's just not anything I need to watch on a consistent basis over and over again. I probably have seen it enough at this point. So that means the last one I watched today is one from my 12 most embarrassing blind spots list. We have Spiral from the Book of Saw from 2021. The reason this ended up on my most embarrassing blind spots list was because I'm such a huge fan of the Saw franchise. Like, I should have seen this one in theaters, let alone waited until now to watch it. But that's why it was on there, simply because I'm such a big fan of this franchise. So we are following Chris Rock's character, Zeke. He is a detective, and he is trying to hunt down the latest Jigsaw copycat killer because they are killing corrupt police officers. So, of course, you're going to get your typical Saw things in here with twists and turns and all of that. That's just what you always get with Saw movies. But what I liked about this one so much was the fact that it felt like a vintage Saw film. Now, the fact that Darren Lynn Bousman directs this really helps because, of course, he did Saw 2, 3, and 4, which most people would argue are the best of the sequels. But because of that, it really feels like a vintage Saw film, and I love that about it because I love this franchise so much. So some of the shots in here were even straight from the Saw, like original Saw films, and that's just really cool to see. That said, I loved the cinematography on this. I thought some of the sequences just looked really cool. Some of the tricks he does with the camera, some of the movement, it felt really fresh and unique, but still at the same time still feeling like I'm watching a Saw movie, which you don't always get as some of these sequels go on. So I really enjoyed that about this one. I think bringing back Bousman for this was just a great idea. More importantly though, I think, is Chris Rock in our main role here, because I am obsessed with comedic actors playing more dramatic roles. And that's exactly what we get here. Chris Rock, who is very much a comedian, playing this like grizzled veteran cop who his colleagues hate him because he turns in other, dirty cops, basically. And so just watching him navigate these waters, I thought was really cool. The way he interacts with his father, played by Samuel L. Jackson, is great. In the special feature on here, they talk about, what if you had in Seven, instead of Morgan Freeman, you had, Chris Tucker or something along those lines. I forget exactly who they mentioned, but, is it still Seven because you have a comedian playing in the lead role? And he argues that, yeah, it is. You might just get a few more laughs. And I feel like that's kind of what happened here. I know this one, it's not loved by a lot of people, but really, I enjoyed this quite a bit. I was debating on my final star rating, and I'll tell you what that is in a second. But the traps in this, I think, are not the best by any stretch of the imagination. They are fine for what they are, but they don't really go as far as some of the sequels do. So, it is what it is there with the traps. I think the special effects work does look amazing. It is super gross at moments, which is exactly what you want when you go into something from the Saw franchise. It's from that torture era. So really bring back those vibes and I'll be down. And it definitely was for this. But they could have been a little bit more creative, maybe even more of them, because frankly, there's not that many throughout this entire film. At least it didn't feel like it. So yeah, just an interesting story. It's really a police procedural with like Saw elements mixed into it. So it just felt different in that regard. But because you have Bousman there, it really felt like going back home with this franchise. So I really did enjoy that. And Chris Rock, I think, again, was just awesome in this. That said, it probably is the most predictable of the Saw films, especially if you're a fan of it. You'll have a good idea of where things are going to go as you're watching the film, and that's just the way it's going to be. But yeah, so really good movie, and I love the steelbook here, which comes with that slipcover on it, which is great. And then on the inside, we have the digital code, so please feel free to take that. Hopefully someone who hasn't seen this will get to enjoy it. But yeah, really great steelbook, one of my favorites from last year. So anyway, I am going to give Spiral from 2021 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, so those are my recent watches. Another day where I got to watch 3 movies, or finish one and then watch 2 other movies. So that's always a good weekend day here. But I would love to hear from you guys down in the comments below. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? Are you a huge lover of both The Abyss and Creepshow and think I should have rated them a bit higher? Let me know what you think. Did you like Spiral, or am I liking that one a little too much? I feel like if I had to put them in order of how much I enjoyed them, Abyss, of course, is at the end, and then I put Creepshow in the middle, and then Spiral at the top. I just really liked that one. I was debating on 4 stars for Spiral, but again, just with how predictable it was and with kind of the mediocre traps, I'll say, I did end up settling on 3.5 stars. But star ratings mean nothing. It's just if you like a movie or you didn't. So let me know what your thoughts are on this and anything else you want to talk about down in the comments. I always appreciate that. And before you guys go, if you could just hit that like button if you enjoyed this type of video, that really does help me out. But with that said, guys, that is going to do it for today. So before you go, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I want to encourage you all to consume some media today. I'll catch you all next time.